Aarika, I cannot tell you how excited I am to welcome you to the Wishbeads podcast. We are in for a real treat, people.
Yes, I'm so excited to be a part of this podcast. You're one of my favorite people, and I love what you're doing. And so thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And listen, I know I gave Aarika, you just heard a little bit about her, but I have to say there is something so special. And I want to say this to you. I have been honored and privileged to be a parent in your teaching community for years. And my children received that spark and joy that you have of learning. And I know that it's changed them forever. So as I mentioned to my audience before, that you have received awards for your teaching, for your love. But really what I'm excited for everyone to experience is your energy. Because it's that unspoken enthusiasm and vision and curiosity that is literally contagious. And it's also such an important role model for all of us right now. We're in a position where we're asking ourselves, how can I be part of the change that we want to see in the world? So, oh my gosh, hats off. I adore you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your kind words. And it's also been an honor and a privilege to have had your children and to be inspired by them as well. They're extraordinary humans, and it's definitely been one of the highlights of my life. And I know that they're destined to do great things. And so thank you so much for those kind words. It really means a lot to me.
Well, I thank you. I think what's so powerful to me about there's a lot of things that I can see in your journey that are inspiring, and I really want to touch on those in this conversation. But the thing that really strikes me is about the power of taking action. So can you give me, here you are running for Congress in the Congressional District 30. And one, I want to hear about your district. I think it's important for people to understand about your district. But really, what was that spark inside of you that said, now is my time? I am at the time 34, almost 35. Now is my time. What is your why? What inspired you so deeply to say, I'm going to go for this and put my hat in the ring?
So I was an active volunteer for Andrew Yang, and I campaigned for him in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada. And I met so many amazing people that come from all walks of life. And when you're in different parts of the country and you meet so many different people, you start to see a theme going on, that people just want relief, or they just want to be able to enjoy their family. They just want their kids to get a good education. They just want to be able to prosper. And I believe so deeply in a lot of his policies that I got really into politics in general. And then COVID happened. And as an educator, I was disheartened to see the lack of resources for kids in low income areas, and not having access to internet, not having the ability to transition to remote learning. And so that ignited me. And then we also had, the police brutality stuff happened with, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. And that's when I decided to throw my hat in the ring, because I'm not for the rioting and the looting, because I feel like there is a better way to go about it. And I was like, you know what, as a woman of color, as an educator, what if I just run for office? What if I fight for legislation and policies that will have a profound impact on these communities and the things that I care deeply about? And so when I figured out how to run, because that's a whole process in and of itself, and I designed my platform, the why are kids, the why are people of color, the why are the women, single moms, working class people. And I take on the burden with an honor and a badge and a privilege to be able to fight for everyday people that just want the relief, that just want to be able to prosper, that care about their community, that care about social justice, that just want to see a positive change. And also, too, what I've learned is that we're not getting anywhere with being divisive. We're in a time where we need to come together. And when you're a teacher, you are constantly trying to get kids to work together. You're trying to get them to compromise and to find common ground. And I look at the skill sets that I have as an educator. I was like, you know what, that would be valuable in Congress, because what we're seeing is there's a lack of working together. There is this sense of divisiveness. But when you really pull back the layers and you talk to people and listen, you realize we have more in common than we don't. And that's another reason why I want to run for Congress, is I want to just start inspiring people to listen and find the common ground, because if we don't, we're never going to get policies passed. And I feel like when you've been teaching as long as I have, we have a moral obligation to ensure that kids get the best education, whether they're at an independent school, a private, or the public school. We have to make sure that that's not compromised. And so my goal is to get on the education committee and make sure that kids have financial literacy in schools, teachers have resources, we fight for higher pay, school nurses and counselors in the classroom, that their infrastructure is welcoming and warm, and just a positive learning environment. So that's my why, and I'm really excited about it. And I think a teacher in office is a positive, because when you are representing everyday people, you need to have someone that lives the everyday experience. I'm not disconnected from the needs and wants of the people in District 30. And I feel like in the country, because most of us are just like hardworking and doing the best that we can, right?
Absolutely. And Aarika, I also love your common sense approach to things, that it's so true that we are tuned in. The media is so addicted to sharing the stories of divisiveness and power hungry and over glamorizing this, that, and the other, that we lose sight of the sweetness of life that comes when one has a good solid education, a good roof over their head, when the common needs are met with
Yep.
love and dignity. It is
Yep.
better for everyone.
Yep.
And when you talk about your legacy and this idea of reaching children, these are very powerful seeds that you're planting. And I can tell you, to go back to my own experience of watching you as an educator, your specialty is inspiring a lifelong love of science. Science, which sometimes can feel very esoteric to kids, that feels very like nerdy or whatever. And you turn it on to this vivid, exciting, fun, playful, hands-on learning experience. And that spark, that opening up of possibility as a learner, those are such powerful seeds for problem solving, for cooperation, for creativity, for discovery, for, so many things. And I know that my older son, he's even written about what a huge impact that you specifically have made in his life. And now it's true. I mean, it's unbelievable. And now I watch him applying that on his own with independence to, learn more complicated programs, like, computer programs, and setting up a really complicated fish tank and aquatic situation. And I think, yes, these are our problems.
Our class pets a few times.
But I just feel like we've lost our way with this common sense approach of listening and getting along with one another.
Yeah.
And for the children to have this model of someone in action, taking action towards what they believe in, even if you may not be discussing it in the classroom. I understand, your focus is primarily on teaching. And by the way, friends, she's still teaching. So talk about multitasking. Oh yeah, I'm teaching a class and I'm running for Congress. But the energy is there. The commitment is there. That love is there. And when I first heard about you, when we were early, like new to you as a teacher, my kids would say, "Oh my gosh, Aarika comes into school so early. She gets in the mood by like blasting Beyonce and like and you fill that classroom before there are any children there with love and energy, and that energy is contagious. And the idea that you can be bringing that energy to Washington, D.C., this gives me great hope.
Like I'm getting teary-eyed. Because the thing is, it was a tough decision to the idea. I never imagined leaving the classroom. It was just just, I felt like my purpose, and thanks to Joan Baca, my mentor, and she passed away, but she's one of the major reasons why I'm an educator. But you know what? I love that you brought up being positive and shedding light on that, because our whole campaign is that. Like, we don't speak negatively about the incumbent. You know, we don't do anything that's about just saying negative things to get attention. We're getting support through being positive and giving a vision that people can get excited about. Like, in our first 72 hours, we raised $23,000. We actually had more small dollar donations than the incumbent. And we didn't have to be nasty or rude or put anyone else down, because the thing about this campaign, it belongs to everyone. It doesn't matter where you stand politically. It doesn't matter your gender, your race, your sexual orientation. It doesn't matter. If you care about kids and education and coming together as a community, this is the campaign for you. And we are thriving because of that. And I think setting this expectation of like, you could be like, good people matter. People recognize that people are craving positivity. They're craving a vision that will excite them and resurrect their belief in our democracy. That's what this campaign is. And that's why the slogan is a voice for you. My goal is just to be a voice for everyone. Even if I may not agree, I can listen, and I could still try to see where you're coming from. I can cite some examples where that's already happened, but it's like, we have to get to a place where we're putting our energy in things that are going to uplift us and, you know, bring happiness and not depression. We need that. That's essential. It's absolutely essential. And going back to what you said about planting seeds, and I love that you said that, because if we don't model good behavior and good character for our kids, we are going to fail. They're watching us. They're watching everything that we're doing. And so we need to make sure that we are having good character, that we're making good decisions, that we're being kind to one another, that we're showing that voting matters, and that we can respectfully disagree. And we can disagree on policies, but we don't have to attack each other's character. You know,
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this intentionality to politics, which I agree with you. And if you can manage so beautifully a classroom of 5th and 6th graders, then you certainly can handle the Senate and the Congress. So I feel like there's so much of what you're talking about that really just goes back to common decency, to the golden rule, to the energy and the spirit of certainly what children and their magnificent sensitivity right now. And in this unprecedented time where so much is right at the surface, and while it can feel uncomfortable, we are finally seeing where there are cracks in the facade and where we can shed light and love and positivity to begin the healing process. And that does take getting off the sidelines and into the spotlight to be able to own that truth. Because I, like you, wear my positivity on my sleeve. And it sometimes isn't for everybody, and that's okay. But I am not going to hide my light anymore, and playing safe and playing safe in the ways that I didn't even realize I was playing safe, until we get to a place where our world, our country can't afford it any longer for us to stay silent. And so your courage to be this beacon of hope and light representation, sharing your ideas, being able to share that enthusiasm, being able to be bold and brave, it's so invigorating, the act itself. And I have to say, one thing that we talked about early in our ideas of like how we can support each other or how I can support you in this endeavor, was this idea of, you don't even talk about the attachment to winning. Like, I think you can win, but what I love is that is the act of being and doing right now. That you are overflowing, this energy of love is overflowing in the journey. And that's what we have right now. And so it just excites me to no end.
Thank you. And it excites me too. I'm excited. I really am. I think it is a winnable race with hard work. I mean, this is not something that you have to work hard to reach the end goal. That's a huge part of it. But it's also about having the conversation, a different conversation in politics. And even let's say hypothetically, I don't win at all. At least we're changing the rhetoric and the tone of our politics and making sure that we're having conversations to one another, not talking at someone, not again being divisive, but just saying like, these are the things that matter to people. How are we going to solve it and be solution driven and consider data and information and not just everything purely off just like getting like the political optics, and you're just so you can go viral for that moment, but we're actually doing something to affect a positive change in our community. Like that's the most important thing. So let's say I lose, right? But we make progress in education, that it becomes more of a topic and more of something that people focus on in Washington. We achieve something. Something. Because I feel like we don't talk about education enough, and we don't talk about the next generation enough. And what we're seeing, the kids are wanting to get involved, and they're active and they're smart. And it's a perspective that we're missing when we don't listen. And something that I know a lot of educators do is we reach out to elected officials and we never hear anything back. So I think we do need to start taking into consideration what our kids want as well, because they are inheriting something that they had no hand in creating. And I take that very seriously. In terms of like the winning thing too, I feel like winning is not just making it into Congress, but winning is also getting the policies passed that are going to help with the social justice, income inequality. That's truly winning, because you can get there, but there's still that next step of like, now we have to really get it passed. And that's what I'm like, my eye is focused on, that getting the policies passed, because we need it. I was gutted with George Floyd. When I saw that video, I really saw my dad. And I was like, oh my God, this can totally be my father. It's unacceptable. We need change. And even in my district, there's a community, the Valley of Change, that organizes, and they still are peacefully protesting to this very day. Every day they're out there because they really want change. And I feel like you having me on and being able to have this open dialogue is also a step forward, because more people are willing to talk about it. And
absolutely.
And what we're doing together is we're having the dialogue, we're having the conversation, and we weren't having these conversations a month ago, 2 months ago. We weren't.
And we're having them with our children.
Yes.
And this is where, again, you're rooting out subconscious biases, stories, and really holding society accountable in a way with much more transparency than we've had in the past. And I think that it's not a moment in time. This has to be a sustained movement, a sustained conversation, and a sustained intention of healing the consciousness.
Yes.
And when we can bring intentionally more energy of love, listening, cooperation, dialogue, equality, justice, and do it in a way where we're not afraid of our difference of opinions, where you can hold the space for people to just come together and talk. I mean, I've seen you do this as a teacher. And so the idea that you can take these, these things that teachers do, many great teachers do so well, and bring them back to the adult arena, we can have this bridge between, what's happening right now and the energy and the modeling that we want to create for the future. It really is fabulous. It's not just because I know you personally that I have benefited from your teaching. My family has benefited from your teaching. I really believe in the energy that you are and the seeds that you are planting, the work that you're doing. I believe this is also winnable. But it's an honor to watch you dive in and go. And I know how busy you are. I know when I get emails from you, how in the middle of the night they are. So I so applaud you. I mean, who knows what is unfolding right now, but wow, what an honor to be to be, watching you
And it's kind of
blossom.
cool for my students that I taught like back like years ago that will be actually able to vote when my election comes up to send me messages saying like, oh my God, my very first vote will get to be for my teacher. Like how special is that? That is like,
It's beyond. It's
so
beyond.
special. And it's crazy because they're graduating, they're going into college, and you always hear this when you're getting your credential, but when students find you years later and they tell you an impact that you've had, it's super special. And to have more mature conversations about the things that they care about and the things that they remember. And something that has been a theme with just my students, and when we've talked about me running or how they can help, was they always said this. They've said this lately. You were so hard on us, but we're grateful because you loved us. Like they all say, like, you really loved educating us. Like you really took pride in your work and you care deeply. And that is special in and of itself, and for my students to know that even though like I was, maybe had very high standards and they're like, seems because I set the bar really, really high.
Yes, you do. I love it.
But I also set it high for myself, but for them to reach it and then to have that sense of like, oh my God, I just did something really hard. And then for them to see their teacher take on something really, really hard and hopefully achieve it is like kind of validates you can do hard things.
Yes.
If you put in the work. And like you do hard things, like your company is blowing up in an amazing way. And I have a deep respect for you as an entrepreneur, as a strong woman. You're like a girl's girl. And to see little girls learn from you and to be inspired by you, positive. We all inspire each other in different ways, and it comes at different times. And so it's just we're at a unique time we're just in a unique time. And I think with COVID it's horrific, and it's led to a lot of deaths and a lot of these negative things, but it's also had us slow down as a society and start rethinking what is important to us, that we're all connected. Healthcare is important. Like if my neighbor is unhealthy, that does impact me, that we can't be selfish. We can't be in our bubbles, that we have to think beyond ourselves at this point. And we're kind of dependent on one another. Like people that I really respect are like the everyday people that we kind of take for granted, like the workers at Trader Joe's, or our nurses and our doctors, like I like to say our essential heroes. Like we needed them, and we didn't even realize how much we needed them. And so we think about who is at the top of the food chain, or not the food chain, but who do we idolize really? Is it like, it makes me think of what we're valuing. It just completely changed.
Well, and I would include teachers in that. I mean, I think that's right. The narrative right now is exactly what you're talking about. When we really step back, we're all asking ourselves to reprioritize our lives. Once we stop the busyness and the sort of what was normal, you dial it back, and suddenly you are looking at your health. You're looking at the foundations of safety in our lives and starting to reprioritize. And then when we look at the community at large and we look at our members of society in the workforce, it's not the star NBA player or the superstar musician that suddenly can't go out on tour. It is the doctors, nurses, the first responders, it's the delivery people. And hello, right now, as we, at the time of this recording, are all learning about how we're going to re-enter the school. Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be remote? We are talking about education and teachers in an entirely new way. Yes. And maybe even as we all had to transition to online learning back in the spring, when all the parents are like, oh my God, like I'm not a homeschool person, suddenly we're stepping back, and the things that, you're right, we took for granted, we are really having to look at in an entirely new lens.
Yes.
And going back to this approach, this idea that together, supporting one another together, lifting one another up is the best part of humanity. Yes. Whether it is within your family, your friend set, your community, your country, is that getting back to this decency, this love, this mutual support, there is more than enough.
Yes, it's having an abundance mindset that there's a little, everyone can thrive. It doesn't have to be a select few. And,
Mhm.
you know, I also think about, often I think about, just what we're valuing a lot more as I talk to people in my district. And I think family has kind of come up a lot. And I've heard kids say, since COVID happened, we're actually eating dinner as a family again. I'm spending time, we're not always on our devices because we're so sick of being like on Zoom and all these things, that we're spending quality time together. We're
Yeah.
reconnecting with our family, and we're having, like you said earlier, conversations that we weren't having. And I think it's a reminder that we need to touch and like to just like connect, and not be go, 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 but just slow down and value the time that we have with one another. And kids are appreciating their friends more. I think there's just a level of gratitude that we are not acknowledging yet. I think once we're acknowledging it, but I think once we're back to our normal lives or whatnot, I hope we continue to check in with one another and make time to spend with people that we care about, and not just value material items or whatnot, and just have that be centered and balanced and just breathe a little bit more,
A
because
hundred percent. A
feel
hundred percent.
I
This
feel
has
like
been
some way than others, but like I go for walks. Like I see people in my community walking more and
yeah.
active and riding bikes and just as families, like sitting in the park and eating lunch together. Those are the things that I am grateful that we've had to experience with COVID. It's just that connection.
100%. And I think that there's so much learning that is coming out of this time. And when we can focus our minds on what we are grateful for, even in this uncertain time, we get our true north again. We get ourselves back and focused in what is important, or even having the hard conversations. And you probably know this, but one of my favorite plays in the world is Our Town by Thurton Wilder. And my son, in his graduation speech, as you know, was referencing the things that he did take for granted, even on campus. And that when Emily Webb, in the final act, after she has died, I'm not giving any spoilers away, this play is over 100 years old. If you haven't read it, sorry. But if in when she comes back and she's allowed to revisit one day, it is just the simple pleasures that she wants to experience one more time. And when no child really knew that they would never be coming back to campus again for the graduating class in the same way as a student, and suddenly going back in time and looking and remembering those moments in the sandbox or on the dodgeball, or friends, or the little moments that we took for granted, we can have that sense of appreciation and the grounding of that gratitude. Let it fuel the life that we're creating right now, and where we want to put our energy, where we want to share our voice, and where we want to put our actions. And I love and deeply support you in the energy, the intention that you want to bring, not just to your community, but to our whole country, to kids, to other people that are going to look at you, boys, girls, who, it doesn't matter, whoever, and say, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. If she can do it,
And
I can do it.
that's what I think is so special about being a teacher running, because it seems so like, wow, like that's such a jump. But if I actually win this race, it's like it opens the door for all kids to actually not only learn about what it means to be in Congress and our government, but like,
Sure.
wow, like I could really just pursue any dream that I have and achieve it with hard work. And I always throw in hard work because I want to be realistic that this does take a lot of work, but that's why I teach as a teacher. I emphasize hard work. You don't have to be the smartest person. As long as you're willing to go the extra mile and do it from an intrinsic place, and you're motivated, you can absolutely do it. I purposely give hands-on tests, like science experiments are usually like in the like a random blind experiment, and they have to execute it to really show their knowledge of, let's say, the scientific method connected to whatever content area or concept. And they look at it. It's always funny because they get the document, the experiment, and they're like, oh my God, this just seems so crazy. Then they take a breath, they slow down, and then they just start to go through it. And then before you know it, they're accomplishing the experiment and they're getting the right results. And so it's a mindset. We have to have a growth mindset that we can do anything we put our mind to with hard work, and nothing is too.
Oop, you froze just for a second. I'm going to let your computer catch up. I'm so excited you talked about hard work. So we're going to back up again. Eric, are you back?
I disconnected. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm
I
back.
think you're okay, cool. There's something, I'm going to go back to my speak of view. Okay. Oh, now it's gallery view. Okay. I'm just so happy, Erica, that you just brought up hard work. When you talked about it the first time, I was like, oh, goody. That's like my favorite topic. And then you come back. That's why I wrote a whole book called Wishwork. It's not just about wishing. You have to do some work. And that this is the best life skill in the world. The best is that to get over the impulse of overwhelm, which is so easy these days. We've gotten so soft in a way to say like, no, I don't want to do that. No. And yet when you learn how to quiet your mind, the steps that you just outlined to see something, honor the fact that it might seem a little intimidating because we have huge problems that we need to deal with in the world, but then to take a breath, quiet your mind, start to see it and break it down, and then systematically, step by step, work it out. This application, whether you are a sixth grader doing a hands-on scientific research experiment, or you're in Congress wrestling the major areas of reform that are required in any government, but certainly ours, it's the same. It's the same. And that work also contains the sweet satisfaction of that experience, of the challenge, of the journey, of figuring it out.
Yes. I don't like, as a teacher, I really, really want the kids to earn everything. Because when they earn it, they sit up taller. They are excited to jump into the next thing. And it's so crazy, the conversation that you have pre and post a hard assignment, or like I'll never forget, like when the kids did their very first debate, and I made them memorize it. We worked so hard on it. But when they got on stage, the level of confidence and their ability to trust themselves, they had this ability to like, I got this, I can do this. And then they had the applauding and the like, wow, I just took that on. That's intrinsic. That's what motivates you and prepares you for the next thing. Because the reality is, kids don't understand this until later on. I always say, yo, thank you when you're 30, but life is hard sometimes.
Totally.
And you can't freak out every time you're confronted with adversity. You have to be like, okay, I have the skills, I have the mind, the intelligence, the capabilities to get through this. No matter what it is, I can think my way through this. And that's partly why I love algebra so much, because it's like some problems are really, really difficult and complex, but you can always get to the solution. And then you could check it and put the variable back into the equation to make sure that you are right. So I feel like that's the cool thing about being around kids, is they remind you the beauty, the sweetness of, learning something new, working hard and achieving it. Because as adults, it's like we don't really always learn new things all the time. Like we do, but it's not the same.
Yeah, we find our sweet spot and then we perform. Right.
Right. So that's the beautiful thing, that they teach you that. And the other thing that kids, I think, model better than adults sometimes is their ability to get out of their own way, and work together. They get a partner or a group and they're like, oh no, but they manage to always pull through. And I
Yeah.
don't know if we always see that in adults. Like we just kind of like complain and whatever. But kids, they get upset for 1 second and then you're like, okay, let's just figure it out.
Yep.
And that's another beautiful thing about kids and being a teacher and seeing that, and hopefully I'll bring to Congress is like, okay, we may be on different sides of an issue, but let's work together and get it done. And I think that's what I'm most excited. There's one person in particular that I really, really want to work with. Should I say his name?
Yes, please.
And it's going to shock you and probably people watching, but Mitch McConnell. I would really want to collaborate with him because he's so far from what I believe in. And I feel like if I can collaborate with Mitch McConnell, anything is possible.
I love it. So Mitch, if you're listening, she's coming. She's coming to have a constructive conversation with you.
Because he makes it very, very hard, I think, sometimes on the collaborating front. But if I feel like we can get him to collaborate, like we're golden.
Golden, man. Like, do it. Let's put it out there. You know, Aarika, before we wrap up, I just want to know, I mean, my hunch is that you probably came into this world with this kind of fire and this sense of curiosity and commitment. But is there someone in your life that you want to reflect on that really modeled this for you, that was your sort of, I don't know, trailblazer, that you were like, yeah, if they can do it, I can do it? Is there someone that inspired you to become the woman you are today?
You know, I always talk about my dad all the time, but my mom is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, she is one of the strongest, most amazing, hardworking women I know. And I'm going to say my mom for this because I have seen my mom fail over and over and over again throughout my life, because she's like a serial entrepreneur. And she gets back up every single time, more creative, more innovative, more inspired. And that is what I think ignites me. And she and I've had some really interesting conversations as I've taken this on. And she reminds me, this is what her advice is: don't tell people what you're going to do. Just do it. Just do it. She's like, don't spend your time talking about it. Don't spend your time trying to get approval from everyone, because people will doubt you, especially if you try different things and you failed. She's like, you just keep trying it. So if you like try to launch one part of your campaign and it fails, okay, move to the next one and just keep going. And I think having a mom that's failed and finally reached success, you know, she's definitely very successful now, you know, tell me that that's inspiring. And I think my mom, her life story is just remarkable. I mean, she had my brother at a very early age, and it was just her and him up until she met my dad when my brother was like, I think like 3.5. And then my dad kind of entered the picture, and then they like love at first sight. Like, let me tell you, they're like the cutest love story ever. And I could go on and on about that, but I won't. But I think she also, okay, not to digress, but the other thing I love about my mom is she always tells me, be independent and be strong and never depend on anyone else. And I think we depend on people, like, right, to help us, but you have to be able to lean on yourself and trust yourself, and that you can do it. You know, every time I tell her a wild idea, she's like, that's not wild. She's like, there's no idea that's too wild if it's what you want to do. And having someone that's that's a cheerleader and that just like makes it not a big deal. Like, you think it's a big deal. They're like, no, you can go to the moon. Just go and take the classes, go through the process, research, whatever it is. I think it's great to have someone like that in your life. And I will give you credit. You have inspired me too. Like, you know, seriously, you have, as a teacher, you have different parents that you interact with, but you have always been the parent to be supportive. You've never said, don't be creative, don't just do the worksheet. You've always allowed me to take chances and risks. You've allowed me to fail. Sometimes I make decisions that may not be the best decision. I don't know, because I'm trying something new, and you never made me feel bad about it. You know, and your husband has driven on field trips. like you're always willing to help elevate the idea, and you're always encouraging and inspiring. And we have parent conferences, you always treat it like a team effort. You don't ever put it just on me, because you understand that we are a team. And I love parents like that. And again, as a woman who has started a company that's thriving, that's inspiring, because little girls see that, and they see like, I can do that. And boys too. Boys need to see strong women. They need to see ambitious women and support that. And you've raised extraordinary humans. You have put two amazing people on this planet that are doing wonderful things to elevate us as a society. And you're an exceptional human being, and we're lifelong friends. We will be lifelong friends. I will know you for the rest of my life.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. Well, and I think first of all, thank you, Aarika. That is so beautiful. The mutual love goes both ways, because I think that just this conversation alone is such a powerful reminder to all listeners, to whoever stumbles upon this, that we are so much stronger together and helping one another. And I'm excited about our Wishbeads collaboration, which we're not going to disclose right now. It's coming out in a couple of weeks at the time of the publication of this podcast. But this idea that using creativity, our own passions and desires, and lifting one another up in a way, is actually what makes life so sweet, is dreaming big and then going for it, and then pursuing that with not just commitment and clarity, but also so much integrity. And the integrity by which you live your life, and the integrity that you have, not just in your actions now, or also as a teacher, which is impeccable, but the fact that you want to bring that to our government. I, for one, as a citizen of the United States of America, thank you. I thank you for that courage. I thank you. I support you. I hope that my listeners and viewers watching right now, how can you support Aarika? Just say the name of your URL. There's going to be links, don't worry. But it's Aarika for Congress.
Yeah, and then my name is spelled Aarika. So
Aarika for Congress.com. Thank you for your donations, everybody. Thank you for signing up to follow where Aarika is going to be seen. I guarantee you people are going to want to hear from her. You can watch her story unfold. But Aarika, we are going to wish for that win, my girlfriend.
Yes, we are.
You deserve it. Our country would be so lucky to have you as a leader. Our children have been blessed to have you as a leader teacher. And I just absolutely, you have 100% of my support.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yay. And please do check out Aarika. We've got some fun stuff coming up. So be sure to tune in. In fact, Aarika, why don't we just make a quick announcement about the YouTube Live that's going to be happening on your YouTube channel, where we're going to collaborate there. I believe the date is August 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Okay, cool. What is your YouTube channel? How can people find you there?
So you just go to YouTube and you type in Aarika Rhodes, Aarika, Rhodes, Rhodes, and you will see my channel. And Alexa's going to come on. I'm so excited. And we're going to talk about like being intentional and wishes and wish work, and why that's important for our lives, and just have a I guess I would like to think of it continuing on with these kind of like the conversation we're having, but go even deeper.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we're both very intentional people. So I would love to go deeper into that as well.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. And Aarika, I adore you. And I wish you all the success in the world, because I can't even imagine at your young 34 years right now, almost 35, what you have accomplished. I can't even imagine what's going to happen for you in your lifetime. I'm just thrilled. I bow down. Woo!
Thank you.